afternoon. Thank you all for joining us. Additionally, if you do have questions, please put those questions in the chat. So first, I would like to introduce you to our wonderful TAP intake team. That team is led by our Director of Professional Learning and the TAP Director, Dr. Gloria Duncan. And we also have our TAP Coordinator, which is Mrs. Ave Tatum, and she is with us today as well. Also, we have three TAP intake specialists. They will be monitoring the chat. And so we have Dr. Sean Antonetti, myself, Dr. Avery Kinley, Miss Melissa Sloan, as well as our TAP administrative assistant, Miss Teresa Marshall. So all of these individuals will be assisting today and monitoring the chat to address any questions that you may have. So our Clayton County TAP program. Our Clayton County TAP program started in 2003, and we've continued to look for individuals who are committed to supporting Clayton County Public Schools in the endeavor of its vision and mission by bringing your educational background, experience, and knowledge to provide a positive impact on the lives of our students. No previous education coursework or experience is required. So the question is Clayton County's TAP program for you? Well, the ideal TAP candidate is a graduate of an accredited college or university. The ideal TAP candidate has a strong content knowledge and expertise within the subject they will be teaching. They are highly committed, talented, and passionate about teaching, can take charge of a classroom immediately, and dedicated to helping students succeed. So what is TAP? Well, TAP is a non-traditional, rigorous program leading to clear, renewable certification. It provides on-the-job training that allows you to maintain teaching responsibilities while simultaneously taking courses in content and pedagogy. It is a heavily supported program. Now, that's what TAP is, but TAP is not a program that will lead to another degree. So you do not go through the TAP program and then get another master's degree in education. It is not another degree leading program. TAP is also not appropriate if you have ever held a teaching certificate. So if you've been issued a teaching certificate, TAP is not the program for you. Something that we will reiterate several times over is that TAP is not an easy route to a career in the teaching field. It's also not intended to replace a regular college teacher education program. Now, along with what TAP is, there are some commitments. And the first commitment is financial. And so that extends to taking the GACE assessment because that is a cost that is incurred by the individual seeking to enter into our TAP program. There also is a period of 2 weeks where you go through what's called pre-TAP essentials. That period of 2 weeks is geared to get you ready to be proficient to teach in the classroom on the first day. That 2-week period is non-paid. So you do have to structure yourself to make sure that you account for that 2-week window where you will be in a pre-TAP essentials course, but you will not be paid. Additionally, if you successfully complete the program and you're offered contracts to continue working with Clayton County Public Schools, you do have to reimburse the system up to $3,000 for program expenses, and that's $1,000 per year. So TAP is a 2-year program. At the end of that 2-year program, if you successfully complete the program, we've invested into you. And so we ask that you, in turn, invest into our students. And so with that, there is a 3-year commitment beyond the 2 years required of the TAP program. And so if you decide to complete the program and you are offered a contract subsequently, if you decide to leave, you will have to pay back $1,000 per year after that 2-year commitment. So there, in essence, is a 5-year commitment. And beyond the 2 years, you would have to pay $1,000 back if you decide to leave the district early. So if you stay with our district for 4 years, we would ask you to pay back $1,000. If you just stay with our district for 3 years, we would ask you to pay back $2,000. So $1,000 per year after the 2 year commitment of being in the TAPP program. So that's a financial commitment. There's also a time commitment. And so I mentioned before, we have the pre-TAPP Essentials class, which is mandatory for all TAPP candidates. Again, that is a non-paid training session. But we also have our new teacher induction, which is mandatory for all TAPP candidates. And so you have a 2-week period that's non-paid where you go through TAPP Essentials. And then you have another period, usually a week, where you go through new teacher induction. So those are some time commitments during the summer. Also, TAPP is a 2-year program, so you do have to structure yourself and your life around the fact that TAPP is a 2-year program, and the expectation is that you complete the program within that allotted 2 years. Another commitment that we have beyond financial, beyond the time, is the coursework. And so there is coursework in the summer and evenings, an average of 2 evenings per week. And so for all approved Clayton County TAPP pathways, coursework will be provided by the district. And what is a TAPP pathway? We will talk about what the TAPP pathways are in just a little bit. But to help you understand the coursework is intended to help you become proficient in the classroom. And so we teach you pedagogy, the science of teaching, but then also in our pathways, you will have some content courses. And so what does that look like? Well, beginning with our pedagogical courses, we have our core coursework, which are general to every TAPP candidate. And so if you are a TAPP candidate, these are courses that you have to take. It does not matter which field that you are seeking to enter, you have to take these courses. And so we have courses in human growth and development, so understanding the child. We have courses in technology for educators that are very specific. If you are in middle school or secondary, high school, we have courses in regards to the middle grades learner. And then we also have courses in differentiation and culturally responsive pedagogy and practices. So all of these courses are courses that are geared to anyone entering our TAPP program. It does not matter which area you will be teaching in. Now, we do have pathways. And so the pathways we have are in elementary education and special education. In elementary education, these are additional courses that supplement the courses that you would be taking for every candidate. So if you are seeking to enter into the field of elementary education, there are 7 additional courses. But what you can notice is that 3 of those courses will lead to the reading endorsement. And so one of the benefits of our TAPP program above any other program in the state is that our candidates in the elementary education pathway, they finish our program with a reading endorsement. They finish our program with a reading endorsement. So there are additional courses that you have to take because elementary education is considered almost a particular content area or strand in itself. And so you do have additional courses that you have to take. Another pathway that we have is the special education pathway. So there are 6 additional courses for the pathway of special education. Some of these courses I teach myself. And again, these courses are aligned with the district policies as well as state and national policies to prepare our educators to teach students with disabilities. And so all of these courses are mandatory in addition to the general courses that every TAPP candidate would take. So with those courses, what would a sample schedule look like? Well, this is an example of a sample schedule. And even though the sample schedule says no classes on Monday or Thursday, you could potentially have a class on one of those days. But in this particular schedule, notice that this particular candidate would have 2 classes during this week. And so on average, you would expect that 2 nights a week you would have class. We do not have classes on Fridays, but every other day is relatively open. And so this would be a sample schedule for someone that is taking just the general courses. Now, for someone that's in elementary education, notice that they would normally, on an average week, have 3 classes, because they would normally have the 2 general classes that every candidate would take, as well as an additional class relative to the field of elementary education. And so you see that additional class on Monday. For our pathway to special education, again, notice that this particular individual has an additional class, that class on Thursday, the evaluation of exceptional students, in addition to the general classes that they would take. So again, we don't have classes scheduled for Fridays, but any other day during the week, you potentially could have a class. But you would want to get your mindset in the frame that you could potentially have 2 to 3 classes per week. Now, there are some additional CCPS, Clayton County Public Schools requirements. And so those include, number one, completing all coursework. So you cannot complete the program unless you complete all of your coursework. Number two, you must maintain employment as a Clayton County Public Schools teacher. And so you are hired at a school, and you have to meet all of the mandates and requirements of that particular school that you will be teaching at. And so you must maintain employment through the district in order to remain in the TAPP program. So if a particular school does not want to hire you or bring you back, then you would no longer maintain employment, and subsequently you would no longer be a member of the TAPP program. Also, this is very important, candidates may not assume any extracurricular teaching, coaching, or club obligations which might interfere with Clayton County Public Schools TAPP program. And so, again, I know many individuals have a desire to be over SGA, or a desire to be over some CTAE club, or a desire to be a coach, or a desire to be working with the high school band after school. But as you just saw, there are a minimum of 2 nights per week where you would be in class. And so because of that, we restrict our candidates from accepting any extracurricular teaching or coaching duties. And so that extends again to coaching, to being a high school band. So anything outside of your normal working duties, we ask that you refrain from doing that. Additionally, because of that, there are some areas that we do not support. And so in the areas of physical education, we do not support that particular area, because by the nature of that particular field, it's inherent that you may be asked to coach after school. So there are some fields that we do not support, because by the nature of that job, it's expected that you do participate in extracurricular activities. So now we've given you an overview of the TAPP program. I'd like to talk about the application process. So with our application process, I noticed that there's a pre-application process that you will go to, and you've already started that by attending this TAPP informational meeting. From this meeting, we will ask that you submit a TAPP interest form. And the link to the TAPP interest form will be put in the chat, so you have a link to it. Thank you, Dr. Antonetti. And so you can click on that link, and you will have the link to the interest form as well as the application checklist. Okay, so what we're going to ask is that you would submit a TAPP interest form along with unofficial transcripts to the TAPP selection committee. So that's step 2. Step 3 would be to take and successfully pass the appropriate GACE tests that will be recommended to you by the TAPP selection committee. And so again, to go over this, you are now in step 1, attending the TAPP informational meeting. Step 2 would be for you to submit to us a TAPP interest form with unofficial transcripts, and we will in turn respond with the appropriate GACE test that you should take. Once we respond, then you need to take and successfully pass the appropriate GACE test. So what will you submit? So to us, you will submit the online application as well as the interest form that we just talked about. You will also need to submit a resume, an updated resume, I should say, and then official passing scores on all three parts of the GACE program admissions assessment, unless you are able to exempt. And here are the following exemptions. So you can exempt the GACE program admissions assessment if you have a English and math combined score of 43 on the ACT. Again, that must be an official score. On the GRE, you must have a combined score of 1030 on the verbal and quantitative areas. And then finally, you can exempt using the SAT if you have a combined score of 1080 on the verbal and math sections combined. So if you meet one of those three, then you can exempt the program admissions assessment. That would have to be submitted to us, and we would need an official copy from one of those test providers, ACT, GRE, SAT, the College Board. So again, just to review very quickly, what would you submit to us? The online application. That application can be found at the CCPS website under the Human Resources section. You would submit a TAPP interest form, a resume, official passing scores on all three parts of the GACE program admissions assessments, or one of the forms of exemption, either ACT, GRE, or SAT. Now, in addition to the items that I just mentioned, you also must submit passing scores on the GACE content assessment that's associated with the field in which you desire to teach. So if the field that you desire to teach is secondary mathematics, you must submit passing scores on the secondary mathematics GACE assessment. And you must submit all passing scores. So for every GACE assessment, there are normally 2 parts. In some assessments, there are 3 parts, but you must submit passing assessments for each part to indicate that you have passed that particular field. You also must take the GACE Educator Ethics Exit Exam, and you must submit official transcripts of all colleges and universities attended. Please visit gace.ets.org for registration as well as additional details. All of that will give you the details as to the appropriate assessments, as well as details in regards to the test windows, which we will also cover today. Now, note, a bachelor's degree from an accredited college or university with a 3.0 GPA on a 4.0 scale is preferred, but you must have a minimum bachelor's degree of 2.5. So again, you must have a minimum bachelor's degree of 2.5 from an accredited college or university. There are no exceptions to that rule. There have never been any exceptions to that rule. So you must again have a 2.5 GPA. If you have a 2.48, we don't round up. If you have a 2.497, we do not round up. You must have a 2.5 GPA to enter into our TAPP program. So I want to go through the interest form very quickly and highlight a few things. The part that you can't see, if you were able to open the interest form from the link Dr. Antonetti provided, which he again put in the chat, the part at the top is more demographic. We do ask, well, if you decide to write it, we do ask that you make sure that you write clearly, and make sure that you clearly write your email address, we would prefer, obviously, that you type that. Um, but I do want to highlight a few things in regards to the second portion of that interest form. Notice that we ask that you indicate your undergraduate college or university. Your undergraduate college or university. And why is that? Because interest into our program is based on your undergraduate degree as well as your undergraduate GPA. So let me say that again. Acceptance into our Clayton County TAPP program is based on your undergraduate degree as well as your undergraduate GPA. So if you have a 3.8 in your master's program where you got your master's degree, but you had a 2.3 in your undergraduate, you would not qualify for our program. So we need your undergraduate information. Notice that the overall GPA at the time of bachelor's degree conferral. If you do not submit this and this is not clear to us, we will simply send it back to you. So this has to be very, very clearly denoted, and it should match what's on your actual unofficial transcript and eventually your official transcript, which you have to submit. We also ask that you only choose 2 areas of interest that you would like to teach. And remember, those areas should align with the degree you received or the coursework that you have taken. So the areas of interest that you would like to teach in must align with the degree you received or the upper level credit hours that you have accumulated in college. Okay, so it's very important. We only want you to select 2. So if you are interested in English language arts and social studies, that's all you need to select. So don't select 5 different areas because that causes more work for us. We have to call to ask, well, what is the area of interest you are truly seeking? In the areas of CTAE, notice that it has CTAE and then it has an area. This is where you would denote whether or not you are interested in engineering and technology, whether you're interested in business education or marketing, or potentially health science. So you would again check CTAE and then fill in and write in or type in the area of interest, the specific area of interest. So let's talk about our application deadline. If you are seeking to enter into our program in January 2021, the deadline is December the 11th. I'll give you a second to write that down as you're taking notes. So if you are seeking to enter into the TAPP program in January, the deadline is December the 11th, 2020. All of your information must be received by the close of business, December the 11th, 2020. If it is received at any point after that, then you would be considered for the 21-22 school year. So in essence, if we receive your information after the December the 11th, then you would not be eligible for the TAPP program until the following school year. Here's the application timeline. Again, this kind of covers some of the steps that we mentioned previously. So notice you are at step 1, where we ask that you attend a TAPP interest meeting and then submit your TAPP interest form along with your unofficial transcript. And we will give you the email address and location to send that information. You will then receive a GACE recommendation from one of the TAPP intake specialists. So either Dr. Antonetti, Ms. Sloan, or Ms. Marshall will send you a GACE recommendation after you submit your interest form along with your undergraduate unofficial transcripts with a minimum of a 2.5 GPA. Subsequent to that, you will submit a full application packet, and you can utilize the checklist that Dr. Antonetti put in the chat to determine if you've completed everything that you need to submit. Only submit to Miss Marshall a full application packet. Only a full application packet. So we do not want you to submit your resume in one email, and then in another email a month later to submit your GACE scores, and in another email to submit your GACE educator ethics. We don't want that. Once you have completed everything, then you will submit a full application packet. Again, remember, December the 11th is the deadline if you are looking to enter into the program in January. Once you've done all of that and we approve you, then you will participate in a TAPP program interview, as well as a model lesson and interview with a principal for a teaching position. Once hired, or if hired, you will then complete TAPP Essentials and new teacher orientation, and boom, then you start your teaching career. So again, this is the timeline that every TAPP candidate goes through prior to starting their teaching career with Clayton County Public Schools. So where do you send this information? We're asking you to send it electronically to the attention of Teresa Marshall. So teresa.marshall@clayton.k12.ga.us. Again, that's teresa.marshall@clayton.k12.ga.us. Please, again, as I stated before, include all of your documents in one email. All of your documents in one email. We will also accept packets through the mail. So if you would like to submit completed packets, you should submit them to the Department of Professional Learning, to the attention of the TAPP Selection Committee, Teresa Marshall, and the address is 1087 Battle Creek Road, Jonesboro, Georgia, 30236. 30236. And I'll give everyone a second if you want to take that down. That also will be in the checklist, I believe. And you do see the address for Ms. Marshall in the checklist. So you do see the email address for Ms. Marshall in the checklist. If you are going to submit e-scripts or parchments, please submit them to Teresa Marshall. So it should say to Teresa Marshall, attention Teresa Marshall. And again, her email address is in the application checklist. So you will see her email address again in the application checklist. So make sure that you have any e-scripts or any parchments addressed to Teresa Marshall. Now, as far as certification, as you're looking at your TAPP interest form and thinking about what areas you would like to teach in, again, the area that you would like to teach in must align either with your degree or with the number of upper level credit hours you have taken in a particular area. And so for certification, there are common areas of certification, but you must hold an academic major or the equivalent, and that's defined as a minimum of 15 semester hours for middle grades and 21 semester hours for secondary certification. And we look primarily at upper level coursework. What does all of this mean? This means that if you are looking to teach in the area of mathematics, it's wonderful if you have a degree in business, but you must have 15 semester credit hours in a mathematics related course on your transcript, or you must have a degree in mathematics. And so obviously if you were a physics major, you probably have 15 semester credit hours in some mathematics courses. But if you are a business major, you may not have taken courses in analytic geometry and coordinate algebra and Euclidean geometry, or taking courses in finite math or statistics. And so, again, that's what we will look at. So if you don't have courses that are defined in that particular area, we would not give you a recommendation in that area. The same is for English language arts. If you don't have courses specific to English language arts, British literature, American literature, courses such as that, we would not give you a recommendation for English language arts. So the courses that are taken must align, and for middle grades, you must have a minimum of 15 semester hours. For high school, you must have 21 semester hours. And I will tell you that usually, unless you were a major or you had a minor in an area, it's rare that you would have the equivalent of 7 courses in a particular content area for high school. So again, if you don't have a degree in a particular area that you would like to teach, or you don't have the amount of credit hours in that area, you would not qualify, and we would not send a recommendation for that particular area. Now, as far as the GACE test fees, this just kind of highlights the assessments for each one of the tests. So notice the program admissions is probably best to take it combined, because notice that the fee is $128 if you take it combined. If you decide to take any 2 of the tests, it's $103. And then for a single test, it's $78. And remember that the program admissions is 3 tests. So again, if it's combined, it's $128. Any 2, $103. A single test, $78. For your content assessments, the combined test is $193. Any single test is $123. So obviously, it's probably more economical to take the test combined, but you have to decide, what you're ready for. And so if you feel like you can do very well taking multiple tests in a day, it's probably best to take them combined. But if you feel like you need to stretch it out, then you do have the option to take the content test or program admissions as a single assessment. Also remember that you do have to incur the cost to take the Georgia Educator Ethics, and that fee is $30. The good thing about the Educator Ethics, that test can be taken at any time. You can take it at home. You don't have to try to worry about a testing site. And notice that some testing sites are open, but you do need to do your due diligence to contact GACE and check the registration page to see which sites are available for you to take your appropriate assessments. There are test prep materials if needed on the GACE website. I always suggest that you look at the practice tests that are on the GACE website, and you gauge from there how much you need to invest into additional materials. You can also search online for materials. There are materials that are free that are online. But if you take the GACE practice test, I should say, through the GACE website, and you don't fare very well on those practice tests, I would recommend that you do purchase some test prep materials from Amazon or Barnes and Nobles. So again, I would start with the GACE website, take some of the practice tests. If you do very well, I might go through the internet, see if I can find some additional test questions. If you're having a difficult time with the practice tests, I definitely would invest into some additional test prep materials. Now, this is very important, especially for those individuals that are seeking to enter into our program in January. Notice that there are some testing windows that are very truncated and specific. So, an example, the elementary education test, the testing window that's available now will be October the 2nd through October the 11th. That gives you a score reporting date of October the 30th. Then you have another testing window from November the 6th through November the 15th. That gives you a score reporting date of December the 4th. After that, you would not be eligible to enter into our program until the following school year, because again, remember that all of your materials must be to us by December the 11th. So again, notice that after that test window of November the 6th through the 15th, with a score reporting date of December the 4th, your scores would not come back in time to make that the December the 11th time frame. So again, if you're looking in the area of elementary education, you would have to take your test either in that first window of October the 2nd through October the 11th, or November the 6th through the 15th. So as you look through each one of the GACE reporting dates, make sure that you look and pay close attention to those testing windows. So if you're looking to enter into our program in January, you can get your score back by that December the 11th deadline. So as we conclude, just remember that everyone must pass the GACE program admissions assessment or exempt from that assessment utilizing the appropriate SAT, ACT, or GRE score. Everyone must take the GACE Educator Ethics Exit Assessment. All potential TAPP candidates must pass the GACE to apply for TAPP. And we need all of you to complete the TAPP application checklist prior to submitting anything to Ms. Marshall. So again, prior to submitting your documents, even if you're very excited, you pass your GACE assessments and you really want to send them to us, hold off, collect everything, your TAPP application, your interest form, your GACE assessments, your educator ethics, your resume, put all of that together and then send it to Ms. Marshall. So make sure that you utilize the TAPP application checklist that Dr. Antonetti put in the chat, so you can send everything to us at one time. Finally, if you do have any questions, you can put them in the chat. Also, if you have additional questions that you would not like to ask this afternoon, you can contact Ms. Marshall. And again, you have her email address, but also you may want to take down her phone number, which is 404-308-4457. Please make note of her office hours, which are 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. So again, if you have questions, you can unmute and I will address those questions, as well as I have Dr. Antonetti, Ms. Sloan, Ms. Marshall, as well as Mrs. Tatum, who are here, and they will respond to any questions in the chat as well. So if you have questions,